At the beginning of the story, we are introduced to a man whose name is Clyde Shelton, who is sitting along with his daughter. But things were about to go very wrong for Mr. Clyde and his family. While he was just working from home as any normal person would, suddenly, someone knocks on the house door and he walks away to attend the person. However, upon opening the door, a man hit him with a bat, hence making him almost unconscious, and he faints on the floor. Not so long after, they stabbed him and his wife and did something so brutal to her that no one could imagine. Immediately, his daughter shows up to the intruders. So one of them picks the little girl and takes her away. God knows what he did to her. This was being watched by Clyde, but he could do literally nothing but watch all this brutality happening in front of his eyes. I think this is not just a fiction, but these incidents happens in real life as well. Now, we are moved to another scene introducing a lawyer called Nick Rice. A lawyer that is considered one of the best. It is also revealed that intruders brutally took Clyde's daughter's life in the incident last time. Nick finally meets with Clyde, who still does not seem to understand what to in this hopeless situation. Before meeting Clyde, Nick had already made a deal with one of the men who did the forbidden crime. However, the court system is so messed up that Darby, who basically originally committed the whole crime with his own hands, testified against his mate Ames, who was almost innocent. So now, Ames will go to death row, while piece of crap Darby will get only 5 years in prison since he pleaded guilty to a third-degree murder. Clyde was not able to believe the truth of the court and almost started crying thinking of his little daughter. However, Nick shuts him up, saying court only believes proof in the court. As a result, the judge gives Darby and Ames a trial date, and Nick gets Darby's sign, where he acted as if he hated Ames a lot for his actions. While journalists were confirmed about Ames getting death penalty and Darby getting 5 years of prison time, where Darby shakes Nick's hand and sarcastically thanks him for being on his side. However, karma was probably about to show some brutality to Darby in his own way. Hopeless Clyde also watched him from a distance before Nick walked away. Nick comes back home, meets his pregnant wife, talks to his unborn child, and we are moved 10 years in the future. We can see Nick's daughter is all grown up, but his wife is angry at him for not being around her daughter and giving more emphasis on his work before he leaves. On the other hand, we can see Ames is about to be executed as the original punishment for his crimes, where he even regrets for even being present in the crime. While lawyers watch him going down, the chemical is induced one by one. Soon after, the man started acting weirdly as if he felt so much pain in his body and then dies on the spot right away, leaving everyone shocked. Everyone started to question about the machine used for execution of the criminal. However, Nick finds a clue on the bottle of one of the chemical used. 3 words, which he had heard earlier from Darby in the courtroom, which makes him the suspect for the brutality happening with Ames. Tons of cops started coming Darby's way, while he himself get a call from a private number and hears a deep voice saying he got a strike 3 and tells him to look outside. He proceeds to flee from his apartment after shooting the cops up front. Mysterious man on the phone decide to help him out and give him directions to a nearby factory, where a cop was sleeping, who he hits on the head and makes him a hostage. Upon finally reaching a point, while Darby has his gun pointed at the cop, he begs Darby to leave him or his wife and little daughter will be left behind. But Darby was selfish as before. Suddenly, he gets a call from the same mysterious number and it is revealed that it is no other than the cop himself. Not only a cop, but Clyde, who began exploiting a paralyzing chemical he put into his system while using a gun he was holding. Darby's body could not move, however. It had no effect on the pain nerves inside his body, so he will feel all the pain in the world, because the neurological function is intact, explains Clyde. Clyde takes him to an empty location, far away from the city, where no one could hear or suspect anything. Darby was shaking out of fear, while Clyde injects him with adrenaline. Clyde shows him the equipments he was going to use to be able to do many brutal things to him to many places in his body. Darby's heart was beating out of his chest. Clyde puts in a camera for recording purposes and proceeds to use a sharp automatic wood cutter and does the inevitable to one of his limbs. We can see Clyde leaving the car along with a man on the back side. The things were going to get even more interesting in a while. Later on, the cops had found Darby, who was in 25 pieces in total. As the saying goes, what comes around goes around. The lawyer suspects something sketchy about Clyde, since the murder had happened inside his warehouse. Little about his past. 10 years ago, after the brutality happened with his wife and daughter, he sold all his fortune and bought properties around rail yards, airports, and chemical plants. While we can see him working on something mysterious as if his whole focus and attention is on it, dozens of cops were coming for him, while he took off his clothes and surrendered to all the men and stares at Nick. Before cops take him inside the car, the cops were trying to find clues in his house. While he is in police custody for investigation, Nick along with the police did not have any evidence against him, so they needed his confession. We can see a small parcel delivered at the doorstep of Nick Rice's family, where Nick's daughter plays it thinking it was something from her school. Little did she know, it was the tape Clyde recorded earlier while making Darby a 25-piece set, back in the investigation cell. Nick angrily asks Clyde to confess about his crime and make it easy for everyone. One by one, Clyde answers all Nick's questions, but in an indirect way, as if he was planning it inside his head or he wanted Darby dead badly, but did not confirm that he did it himself. Nick was about to walk away, thinking the case was done with this confession. However, Clyde ordered him to sit and began to explain how he did not confess to any of the crimes, just assumed in his head. He again angrily reminds Nick how he also told him once, "You need proof in court, not what you know." Finally, Nick asks him what he wants, to which Clyde asks for a better bed due to his back problem in return for his confession, which makes Nick laugh. But still, he did not agree with such a small deal. Nick's boss was angry at him for not giving him what he needed and solved the whole case in minutes. Suddenly, Nick gets to know about the DVD sent to his house, which scared his daughter. It looks like the specific bed Clyde asked for had arrived for his comfort. On the other hand, one of Nick's associates found out that Clyde had been paid some payments in the past, which were from Department of Defense. Clyde's 9 properties had been also transferred to some unknown corporations in Panama in the past. They are not able to get to the addresses. They don't have a clue about any of this. However, a big mystery unfolds itself pretty soon. Nick comes back home and sees his daughter sleeping and meet his wife. Soon after, Nick presents the case against Clyde in front of the judge and deny his bail. However, Clyde spoke for himself while explaining how she cannot deny the bail as if he was some sort of high-quality lawyer, to which the judge almost offered him the bail. But once again, Clyde speak up on how she was about to let him go, even though he took Darby's life, which result in his removal from the court and denied his bail. Later on, Clyde finally confessed the crime he had committed very specifically. He also explains how he changed Dame's chemical package for him to be able to suffer his execution. Not only this, Clyde had another confession to make. However, he asked for some specific type of food at exactly 1 o'clock along with a music player. They also get to know the confession was about to be the location of the person that went missing 3 days ago, named Bill Reynolds, who was not other than Darby's attorney. Next day, the obvious thing happens and they come over to him with the food he asked for, but not exactly at 1 o'clock, instead around 1:06 p.m. He calmly begins to eat the delicious food and reveal to them the specific location of Bill Reynolds. Suddenly, all of them flee from the spot to rescue him. While he enjoys the meal inside the prison, he offers his cellmate some of it as if he was being a friendly person. Cops were on their way to find Bill, while he plays the music and stab the hell out of his cellmate's neck while they have rescued Bill. Later on, Clyde talks to Nick and reveals the reason for sending his cellmate away from Earth. It was all because Nick was late regarding the time of the meal, which should have been exactly 1 o'clock. Nick leaves his bracelet along with Clyde himself. Nick's colleague takes him to a person who knows Clyde, probably a spy, to get some information about Clyde. He assures him that if Clyde had decides to kill any of them, then they are already dead unless they go into his cell and take him out of Earth right now. He also tells them every kill is related to his next move, so they should look for the next piece of the puzzle. Both the lawyers talk to the judge in private to be able to limit Clyde's contact with outside world. She does sign the papers and picks up the call. Suddenly, the phone blasts, resulting in sending her to eternal sleep. Nick accuses Clyde for taking vengeance. However, he angrily assures him it was worse than that. Nick believes things will not change with the actions he was taking. However, it seemed something totally unexpected was coming Nick's way, which Nick could not figure out yet. Back at Nick's office, his worker was also worried if he made the right choice on Clyde's case. The clock was ticking. It was about to be 6 o'clock. Everyone was watching it as if it was freaking them out, but nothing happens. While everyone was assured, Clyde seemed a bit upset for some unknown reason. Immediately, many cars blew off in front of Nick's eyes, including Nick's assistant, who was fearful of this. It seemed Clyde did not want to do this, but he had no choice left. It was clear to them that Nick was the one to set it all up. Mayor was concerned about it as well, to which Nick assures her that he was not going to hurt anyone else and this will be taken care of. Nick kisses his family and goes to meet Clyde right outside the prison. Upon coming outside, Nick starts to punch Clyde's face as hard as he could. However, he assures him that it was just the beginning and something bigger that was coming on their way. While standing at a funeral, even his boss suggested that Nick himself might be the reason for all of this. While Nick along with his people of them were going out of the spot, a man used a machine to stop all the vehicles and started to shoot them from a distance, which resulted in Jonah's given eternal sleep. Later, Nick was being scolded for not handling the situation. Nick wanted to resign from the job. However, Mayor did not let this happen out of her sheer anger. Later on, Nick gets some emails from the spy he talked earlier, which contained all the transactions made to unknown assets, using which he was able to figure out a new location owned by Clyde's, which was not far from the prison cell itself. Finally, Nick along with his mate start to investigate the location further and finds out a car, in which they find a whole cave. It looked as if Clyde built it all himself or with the help of someone to be able to get whole revenge. Nick's mate Try looks inside the solitary confinement, but does not find him there. After investigating a bit more, they figure out that he was present in the city hall for the execution of his next move. They reach the city hall and checks all the cameras. They run as fast as they could to reach Clyde and enters the room to find him. But little did they know, Clyde was already outside and on his way to his next step. Cops finally see a van pulling up to his base location. Meanwhile, the mayor along with high authority people are in a meeting. Clyde was getting ready to detonate the whole building. He comes back to his own cell, where he finds Nick standing inside. Nick tells him to think once again and reveals that Nick has finally realized his mistake. But Clyde anyways go ahead with the plan and decide to detonate the obvious. However, the bomb had been placed inside his own cell and he finally gets a taste of his own medicine. In the end, we can see Nick enjoying her daughter's play. The moral of this story is to never underestimate the karma. You must subscribe to watch all the blockbuster mystery movies only on End Recaps.